He's a working man.
Yeah, they call him the working man.
Yeah, that's what they call me.
Hey, we're live. Black Spinner Circle vidcast streaming live on my channel. Be Cool to Be Podcast Out. I'm Al Horta. My esteemed co-host Andy Rodriguez below me. How are you, brother?
I am doing all right, guys. Hi there, everybody. Hello, everyone. It's so good to be here.
All right, so I got two great guests on. We got Tim Durling from Tim's Vinyl Confessions. What's up, Tim? How are you?
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here, guys. This is a challenge, but I'm up for it.
And we got the one and only Donna Halper. How are you, Donna?
Hey, you know what? I'd rather be here than some places. No, when you said they have two great guests, I was looking around. Will they be along soon? Or,
Oh, you're too modest. You're too modest.
At least you got one great guest. You got Tim. Timmy.
Please.
One of us here is responsible for us all being here, being aware of Rush. And
talking about a great band. So yeah.
Never heard of those guys. Who are they?
Yeah, it rings a bell.
Who are those Canadian lads?
Can I tell you a very funny story? And I'll keep it short because I know we all have places.
While you do that, I'm going to share out. So
okay. So as some of you know, I was laid off about 5 or 6 months ago, along with 25 other colleagues. So there I am busily looking for work. And the other day I'm applying for a gig. And I'm just, you know how you're kibitzing with the person before you get into the actual interview. And person says to me, just tell me a little about yourself. And so I tell her that I used to be a DJ and this. Oh, what stations did you work at? So I'm like, WMMS include. She's like, WMMS include. I loved that station. And, who are some of the bands you played? And I said, Rush. And she's like, you're not going to believe this. My husband is like the #1 Rush fan. Now, this is a person who is much younger than I am. Not that I'm old, I'm adorable, but I'm talking about somebody who is I'm just somebody who's like, doing the intake before I get to my interview. Sounds like they're maybe in their 20s. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, oh my God, here's an entirely new generation of Rush fans. The guys haven't put out a new album in a while for obvious reasons. And yet there are new Rush fans all the time. And I just thought that was just a random person out of nowhere on that. She's naming me off her favorite Rush songs. And I'm like, first of all, I need to tape you. I didn't, but I need to tape you because I always, there's no female Rush fans.
Yeah.
I'm like, and here's this like 26-year-old person who answers telephone, naming me off her favorite Rush. I loved it. Just out of nowhere. I mean, I would have thought, oh, sure, she's just saying she likes Rush because, she saw my resume. But she's like naming me off all these songs. Wow. So yeah, there are people finding Rush every day. Yeah. And with that, thank you for having me. Thank you for having my friend Tim. It's a privilege.
Talk about, all the hardcore Rush fans know the story, but, for fans that maybe might not know it, just talk about, how you discovered the album and how you came to play Working Man and got them noticed and, all that. Great
25 stuff. Words or less, because I really, really want to move this along because people, while it's nice listening to me tell war stories, it's nicer listening to what we all think about Rush songs. So my story begins with a Canadian record promoter named Bob Roper. And I always had a lot of friends who were Canadian record promoters because I was a music director and I loved playing imports. And back in those days, you couldn't download anything. You got the physical vinyl record. I have the original Rush record on Moon Records, the one that Roper sent to me. So yeah, I played, British imports and Italian imports and German, whatever I could get. And of course, Canadian imports. And one day I get this manila envelope and it's from Bob Roper of A&M of Canada back then. I'm still in touch with Roper. It's been 50 years. Talked to him as recently as a week ago. And the reality was he would sometimes send me stuff that was Canadian that he thought I might be interested in. And he sent me this one with a note. Our label is not going to sign them, but I hear something. I've heard them in the clubs. I think they're a good local band. See what you think. And I went looking for a long song. And one more time, I did not have to go to the bathroom. A long song back then was.
Oh,
Did have to go. Radio was live. You put on a long song. You did what you had to do. You came back. The record was still playing. Nobody knew. But it had to be a good song or we wouldn't play it. It wasn't just any rando long song. And I dropped the needle on Working Man. And I knew immediately. I just thought it was a perfect Cleveland record. I ran it downstairs to the DJ on the air, Denny Sanders. I was the music director. I wasn't on the air that night, but I knew he would want to play it. He did. We got requests immediately. People thought it was Led Zeppelin, but never mind that now. And the rest, as they say, is history. But if you had told me 50 years ago that I would still be in touch with the guys, which I am, that I would still be friends with them, which I am, and that I would still be on wonderful webcasts and podcasts talking about them, I would have said, yeah, right. Because back then, you know, you're a music director, you're a DJ, you play a record, end of story. Maybe people like it. There it is. But I never thought that it would lead to a 50-year friendship. And I never thought that so many people would love that song and want to hear more and then want to see the band in concert. And you know the rest. So, yeah, so they dedicated their first 2 albums to me, for which I was profoundly grateful. And we remain in touch, and I'm profoundly grateful for that.
And you got to interview Geddy on his last book tour.
I did.
After Life. That was great.
Yeah, he summoned me, basically. I wrote a blog post about it. I won't bore people with the details. If you want the blog post, I can, ship it over to you and you can, blast out the link if you want.
Sure.
But, it's called, Oh, the Places You Will Go, or How I Ended Up in Cleveland. Because I was in Boston watching the book tour when it came to Boston. I did not expect to be on stage in Boston because nobody in Boston had played Rush. The WBCN did not like them. They never played them. They played them years later and then said they always had, but no, they didn't. They were big in Worcester, which is about 50 miles from Boston. They were big in the western part of the state, but in Boston, not so much. So I'm just watching the show. And I went backstage to see Geddy because we keep in touch. I'm in touch with his sister, etc. And, I came back to say hi and this and that. And as I'm leaving, his manager says, what are you doing tomorrow night? And I figured, they're sticking around for a day. Maybe we'll finally get to have the lunch we've been promising each other since forever. And I said, I could be available tomorrow. She said, great, we'll fly you to Cleveland. I'm like, what? And Geddy wanted me to do the question and answer during his book tour in Cleveland. Nobody knew. There were a couple of rumors, but by and large, nobody knew. And I got to be on stage. He announced me. It's some of it, there's a bootleg on YouTube somewhere, but he announced me. I came out. I did the question and answer. It was just incredible. I got a standing ovation. So did he. He deserved it more than I did. But he
deserve it too.
Well, he said what he has always said. He said, basically, Donna, I wouldn't have a career if it weren't for you. And I said, but Geddy, if you weren't talented, if you weren't hardworking, if you weren't, in fact, a working man who played out 360 days a year in cities nobody had seen a rock band, these guys, they took this very seriously. Okay. They never mailed it in. They were always out there performing in those early years and even years later. So, like I said, yeah, I launched their career in the United States. I'm glad I did. I championed them. I stood up for them. I did a whole bunch of stuff behind the scenes. But if they hadn't been talented, if they hadn't been a great concert band, have you ever seen a bad Rush concert? I never have.
No.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I've seen some where the acoustics weren't that great, but that's not their fault. I've seen some where like they had problems with, with the, not their fault, but I'm talking about them up on stage. Never saw a bad concert. Never.
Yeah, and I've seen them probably about 50 times, I think, over the years. So my first time I ever saw them, I was a latecomer, so I saw them on the Presto tour in 1990. That was my first time I had ever seen them. Because by that time I wanted to go earlier tours, but I didn't drive, and my older brother, wasn't really going into like the Rush shows or whatever, so I had nobody to go with. So finally, when I started driving, I was like, I'm going to go to 2 right off the bat. So I went to Meadowlands, New Jersey, at Nassau Coliseum on the Rush Presto tour in 1990, and it blew me away. But I just want to say, Donna, I met you here, RushCon 2001.
Absolutely.
I still have this pamphlet that you signed, if you can see right here,
Aw.
to Alan Tina. Now, I started dating my wife. She wasn't my wife. I was only dating her for 6 months. Now, I asked her, I'm like, do you want to go to Toronto with me? She's like, yeah, sure. I'm like, do you want to go to a Rush convention with me? And she's like, yeah, I'll go. So, she only really knew like a couple of songs. She didn't really know a lot about them. But after the trip, I knew she was the one. So we've been married 20 years now, And yeah, so you inscribed here to Alan Tina, 2 wonderful fans of a wonderful band. So that's awesome. Still have it.
There it is. I remember the first RushCon very well. But anyway, rather than trips down memory lane, let's just do our thing.
Yeah. So now we're gonna rank the opening tracks of each. Okay. So Andy knows, my co-host knows, I like to come up with these concepts. So being as January, the first month of the year, I figured why not rank the first tracks on each Rush studio album, from your least favorite to your favorite. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna start with Donna, go to Tim, Andy, and myself, and we're gonna go 3 at a time. So we're gonna go 19, 18, 17. Then we'll go to the next person, and it works out good because actually it goes to number 2, and then number 1 can be saved for its own thing. So without further ado, Donna, if you want to do your 19, 18, 17, go right ahead.
Okay, well, I'm sort of at a loss here just because of the fact that I went the other way, because you can't get good help.
Just read from the bottom to the top.
But yeah, I went top to bottom, but that's okay. It'll all be good. So first of all, this is an impossible task.
Yep.
Because like I said, I don't think there are any bad Rush songs, but I'm going to go for my number 19, and this is going to surprise a few people. Okay. Anthem.
Oh, wow.
And okay. I'll tell you why, and then I'll just give you the other 2, and I'll give you a quick reason.
Sure.
Okay. I was really looking forward to Fly By Night. And by the way, I think Fly By Night's a great song, should have been a hit, etc., and etc. But I thought with Anthem, Neil, of course, is still in his Ayn Rand phase. And I thought the lyrics didn't fit. I thought they were trite. I thought he was trying too hard to put in a philosophy rather than playing a song. It was almost like I felt he was teaching a class. I never said this to him, okay? Because, hey, it's his song, it's his vision. But later, his songs are going to be much smoother lyrically. They're going to work better lyrically. I feel like this is a case where he took a chance. He knew what he wanted to say and was having trouble saying it. Okay, and I hope that doesn't seem like sacrilege to the fans.
That's the beauty of Rush fans. Everybody's different.
So. Okay. That having been said, the album's a really good album. There were a lot of songs on it I like, and it's not that I don't like Anthem. I just
You gotta put something on the bottom.
yeah, there are better songs that Neil wrote. Okay, let's just say that. Okay. Um, with regard to my next song, it's probably gonna be Cygnus X1, okay? Because
Okay, hold on. Oh, the hemispheres. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
because I think it's better live. I just think it's better live.
Okay.
There's a certain energy to that that just for me, when I listen to it in the studio version, it just doesn't do it for me as
Gotcha.
well as it does watching everybody in concert. You know, they're air drumming, they're air guitaring, they're singing along. I'm sorry, it just
That's
wasn't
okay.
there for me. Okay. The next to the probably, oh God, I had such a hard time with this. Let me look at my notes here. I'm gonna go animate.
Okay.
I'm gonna go animate. And the reason being very quick, the lyrics. The lyrics, I'm a second wave feminist, proud of it. There's lyrics in here that just made me cringe. The part about a secret face, a touch of grace, a man must learn to give a little space, a peaceful state, a submissive trait, a man must learn to gently dominate. And I'm like, oi, oi. But in fairness, it's 1993. I wonder if he would have written that in 2000 when he remarried and his wife had a career. She was a very good photographer. Thank you very much. I wonder if he changed out of that. But yeah, at the time, I just thought the lyrics were. I know he was trying to do the dualities of life, but
Gotcha.
Interesting.
All right, Tim.
Well, this is interesting because two of the three that I have at the bottom are the same as Donna's, so I don't feel the least bit self-conscious about it because I'm in good company. And isn't it so Canadian? You know, the big cliche is Canadians apologize all the time. So Rush fans, we never want to say they have bad songs. We're like, I'm sorry, even if you're not Canadian. That's just an observation. My first one is Animate, and I think it's a good track musically. For some reason, Counterparts, like we said, like a song has to end up at the bottom of the list mathematically. Counterparts is probably my least favorite album, but having said that, my least favorite Rush album is still a really good album. That's just one that's never quite taken hold with me, and I can't really articulate why. So therefore, Animate, it got to start the list off with something. Next is Hemispheres, Cygnus X1 Book 2. I think there's some incredible musical passages in this. It's just not my favorite of their sidelong songs, but also I really like it. And this was hard, but that's my next one. And my next one is an album that I think gets a little bit of flack, but I actually prefer it to the one that came before it. And it's the title song from Test for Echo. It's just something's got to filter down to the bottom. And those are my first three that I'm going to mention.
All right, Andy.
Okay. Well, when I was doing this list, I started to rank them, and then I started to notice that they're all kind of grouped according to the phases. Phases they were going through. Because if you listen to Rush, if you hear all of their career, you start to notice that they change gradually. Their music changes, their lyrics change, and that's great because that's the sign of a band that's growing each time. So I'm going to start off. My number 19 is going to be off of Hold Your Fire Force 10. That's what I'm going to start off at number 19. And you're going to see a little theme here because number 18 is going to be Show Don't Tell off of Presto. And then my number 17 is going to be The Big Money off of Power Windows. When I listen to Rush, my favorite Rush member is Alex Lifeson. So every time I hear a song by Rush, I'm waiting for that guitar solo. I'm waiting for that long guitar solo. And sometimes when I don't hear it, it disappoints me. So I know that he does a lot of textured guitar work here, but it's not what I like or expect from Alex. So that's why those three are in the bottom for me.
All right. All right. My 19, I'm going with the title track, Test for Echo. Um, I'm a little bit opposite of Tim there. Like, Counterpart's like one of my, of the latter day Rush albums, is like one of my favorites, probably in my top 10. But I found Test for Echo, although when it first came out, I was really into it. To me, it hasn't aged all that well with me. I still love the album, don't get me wrong. And Test for Echo is a great opening song. But again, we got to rank these songs. So I have to put that one on the bottom for me, number 19. Number 18 is actually going to be Far Cry. Again, I love the song. But I got to rank it somewhere. And the later Rush albums sometimes took a little longer for me to digest and get into them. But, they came around to me and stuff like that. But Far Cry is a great song. I love the opening like riff of it and the way the rhythm and all that. But again, I got to rank these. So, so it's going to be number 18. Number 17, I'm like right there kind of with Andy. It's Force 10 for Hold Your Fire. If I had to rank albums, Hold Your Fire would probably be in a lower tier. But I do love the synth era Rush when I'm in the mood for it. I throw on like Power Windows and Hold Your Fire, and it's a little bit more of like a, if I'm in the mood for like a jazzier kind of lighter Rush, But lyrically, Neil was writing great lyrics. He matured very much. But again, I got to go rank these. So the ones that are near and dear to my heart, get higher on the list. So, so number 17 will be Force 10. So now we're going to go 16, 15, and 14. Donna.
Okay, so I guess I'm back in there. We're going to have to mildly agree to disagree on Test for Echo.
Okay.
I have it next. Okay. I think that, well, let's just talk about why it got written. According to the tour book, it says here, everybody needs an echo. Everybody needs some affirmation to know they're not alone. The song's about what echoes back at us, and rather than being alone, we're all a group watching sensationalized stuff and addicted to TV and addicted to crime. And this was something that really worried Neil. That there was no, this could have been written in the internet era. There's no community. There's just individuals watching shocking and sensational stuff and then forwarding it to everyone they know. You couldn't do that when he wrote it, but he sort of was a precursor of it. So yeah, I'm going to show a little bit more love to Test for Echo. Okay. Next for me is probably 2112. Okay. And the meek shall inherit the earth. Some great mythology, a little ponderous, but still a really, really good song. I enjoy listening to it. I enjoy watching it. It has a lot of good memories behind it. Next, I'm probably going with Bastille Day. I understand the good thoughts behind it. Getty had just been reading A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was a time of wisdom, time of foolishness. I got it. And Neil tried to put all that into a song. Again, I think we're still in our trying too hard to make it fit period of time. But there's some interesting lines in the song. It doesn't speak to me the way some other Rush songs do.
Yeah, gotcha. Hey, there you go. All right, Tim.
So the next, these go along, I'm finding that there's a lot more personal experience and personal meanings behind these. I think we'll all. In latter days.
Whoop. It's breaking up there a little, Tim. I'm not hearing you now. Yeah, I can't hear you right now.
Lost your audio bit.
Yeah.
Lost your audio.
Oh,
Better.
There you go.
whoops. Okay, hold on. I must have hit a button on here. Can you
I
still
hate
hear
when
me?
that happens. Words we never thought we would
Yeah, I
have
can
to
hear you.
say. You're
Okay.
muted. When did we ever say you're muted? But
So, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
you're a little loud. You're a little loud, but we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. How about now? Is that better?
Yeah, that's good.
You're fine.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So any veteran band, Rush or anyone, when they, you're still following them and they put out new music, it's still exciting when one of your favorites comes out with an album, but they get farther and farther apart. So there's more anticipation, but also, I'm not a teenager anymore. I've got responsibilities. I've got a family. So it's hard for newer albums to sink in, but that doesn't mean they're not great. And that's why my number 16 is Far Cry. I think Far Cry is great. I quite like Snakes and Arrows.
Yeah.
I love the making of DVD. I found it very interesting. But again, it's placement. That's where it is. And my next one, 15, is Bastille Day. And I love the song. It's one of Rush's heaviest. It's a fun song to play on guitar. It's just a fun, heavy rocker. Yeah, I mean, their early lyrics, you could tell that Neil, all of them really were voracious readers. I mean, Rush is the only band I can think of where you see these like candid backstage photos, and there's Neil with a smoke in one hand and a book in the other.
Yeah.
You didn't see Jimmy Page doing that. He might have, but you never saw it. But I love the song. This is just where it fits. And my next one was hard because I love the song. It's a fun song. It's, for many people, it was their introduction, Finding My Way. I think it's a fine song. Love the guitar riff. Love the enthusiasm in Geddy's vocals. Again, they had to fit in somewhere, and
Yeah.
this was so hard. So that's my next three.
Absolutely.
By the way, live Bastille Day, the live
Yeah, see,
version of that
Oh,
song.
all the world's a stage.
Heavy.
Oh,
All
yeah.
the
Oh,
world's
Heavier
a
live.
stage.
Yeah.
just
Aces.
rips.
Aces.
All right, Andy.
Yeah, my 16, 15, and 14. My number 16 is going to actually match Tim's. My number 16 is going to be Far Cry off of Snakes and Arrows, is where I fit that one. Number 15, I know that a lot of people love this album. It was their last album, which was Clockwork Angels, but I still haven't gotten too deep into it. So Caravan is going to be my number 15. And I wish that this was higher because I do like my number 14 off of Roll the Bones Dreamline. I really like that song, but I just couldn't fit it higher than what I already have in there. And I think Roll the Bones, although they go into different areas and different avenues, I think it's a very interesting album by them, especially in the middle kind of time for them when they were not on the top of everybody's list of new albums coming out of that era. But it's a very good album, and I do like Roll the Bones quite a bit. But that's my number 14 is Dreamline.
All right. So my number 16 is going to be Caravan from their last album. Again, love the album, love the song, but I got to place it somewhere, But I remember first hearing that premiere of that song, man, I was like, yes, man. They're still continuing the heavy rock, the heaviness, that I love. I love that part of Rush, So number 15, Animate off of Counterparts. Lyrically, lyrically, the theme of the album was like relationships and things like that. So Donna really touched on that song already lyrically. I actually like the live version of that song better because they slowed it down and made the song groove a little more. I feel that the studio version is a little too fast paced. When you hear the live version, it seems like they slowed it down and let it groove a bit more. So that was kind of cool. I love the live version of that. Number 14, Show Don't Tell. Lyrically, man, if you really listen to that song, it can be relevant to what's going on these days. I mean, that's kind of like, the more things change, the more they stay the same kind of thing. You know what I mean? So lyrically, I love the lyrics of that song actually, and I love the song. I remember seeing the video on MTV when they were still playing videos, and I thought it was a cool video. So yeah, Show Don't Tell number 14. So we'll go to the next three, Donna.
Yeah, I'm losing track here. So, did I get Force 10? Have I gotten Force 10 yet? Because I thought that I hadn't. Okay.
No.
I think so.
And for me, I mean, okay, fine, 1987, nothing wrong with it. It just, I mean, for me, if a song has really good lyrics, that's what stands out. And I just didn't find anything in Force 10 that stayed with me. Okay, fine, Tough Times, I get it. Marvelous. But it didn't speak to me. And Tim's right when he said a lot of Rush songs are experiential. A lot of Rush songs, we remember where we were when they came out, what we were doing, how it felt to us. And there's a couple of songs where I've had to revisit them. I'm going to talk about that in a couple of minutes, where there's at least one song, in fact, it's my number 10, where when I first heard this particular song, I was like, meh. But now I'm like, I love this song, because sometimes the lyrics age with us, if I'm making any sense at all.
Yeah.
So anyway, Force 10, I don't think I did Caravan, did I? And there's a very good reason why I didn't. It's, again, everything has to go somewhere. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a perfectly good song. Just on all the, there's things about that entire album that I love, but I just don't think Caravan is the best song on it. So, okay, what number are we at now?
So you did, let me see here. You did
15 and
16 and 15. So now we're at 14.
Now we're up to number 14. Okay. I'm going to really disagree with someone about something here, and that's going to be Dreamline. I almost put that in my top 10. Okay. Personally, I think the song should have been a hit. I think it has great lyrics. The thing about we are young, wandering the face of the earth, wondering what our dreams might be worth, learning we're only immortal for a limited time. That's one of those songs where when I first heard it, I was sort of like, yeah, that's nice, But now, years later,
It hits home.
Yeah, learning that we're only immortal for a limited time.
Yep. That's what, when we're young, we think we're indestructible.
Absolutely.
All right, Tim, man. Go ahead, my friend.
So now that we're at 13, I really wish all of these songs could have gone into the top 10, but I couldn't get them to fit. My number 13 is Dreamline. I think it's a fantastic song. I give this song the Setlist Survivor Award for a 90s song. It held in there with all through. They even played it.
Where to put it? I didn't know where to put it.
They even played it at Sarstock,
Yes.
in that abbreviated set. It was important enough for them to include it in there. I remember I didn't even know that. I knew they had an album coming out because it was like every 2 years at the time, but I didn't read much about it at the time. And I remember seeing it in a store and being like the shock of, not only is there a new Rush album, there it is right in front of, so of course I grabbed it, and that's the first thing I heard. I think it's a great song. Yeah, I think it's hooky enough to have been a hit song. I think there's a few songs on there.
Very hooky.
Ghost of a Chance should have been a hit. I think that The Big Wheel could have been a hit. But anyway, yeah, Dreamline's a great song. The lyrics are great. The lyrics mean more and more over the years. And my next one is actually the one before it, which is Show Don't Tell. And like Al said, I saw the video on Much Music, our MTV up here in Canada, and it was actually a little while before I realized there were two different versions of the video. Like there's a video where it's just the band performing.
Yeah.
Then there's the video that's got like the conceptual stuff.
Yeah.
My favorite is when they go Rock of Ages versus Age of Rocks. I think that is that's such a, I have to think Neil contributed that, because that's such a brilliant juxtaposition, and it just feels like a Neil thing to me. But I think Show Don't Tell's a great song. Very, very catchy. Again, should have been a hit, but you know, wasn't cool to play Rush on the radio. Very rarely did I hear Rush on the radio. Number 11, it kills me. I couldn't get this into my top 10. It's my second favorite Rush album, A Farewell to Kings. So the title song, Farewell to Kings. I love it. I love the video where they got the robes. They just looked so cool. When I was 13 years old, that was the first like older video I saw. It was either that one or Closer to the Heart, but just love the song. Love Alex's solo in it. Love the acoustic intro. I love everything about it. So that's my 13, 12, and 11.
All right, Andy.
All right. You can tell that we're going to start creeping into our top 10 because it's already starting to show. My number 13 is going to be, I'm going to be the last one to name this track because it's already been tracked 3 times. I'm going Animate as my number 13. My number 12, it was Tim's number 11, the title track to A Farewell to Kings. I wanted to put it higher, but top 10 it was just shut and locked. So that had to be there. And number 11, Test for Echo, the title track. I put that one there because like Donna was saying, the lyrics about it talks so much about society and the way we view things back then, even now, and probably in the future. So it's a very well-written song. So I'm going to go with Test for Echo as my number 11.
Yeah, around the time of that album was the infancy of like the internet. It was just starting to formulate. Because I remember where I worked, we actually got a dial-up internet like around the time of right before Test for 95. I think we got it. So I remember 96 when Test for Echo came out. They had like a little internet, like kind of, and it took forever to load up.
Yeah,
it was like a little commercial for the album, and it was. I remember getting it on the internet and downloading it. It took like all day almost to download because video back then it took like forever. Everything
you thought it was the greatest thing ever, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Now if something takes 2 minutes, you're like, come on.
I know. We need instant gratification. That's the whole thing, you know.
Yeah.
And when I heard this song this week, the first thing that popped into my mind was the O.J. Simpson trial.
Oh, absolutely.
All this mass media stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Really starting.
That's part of it. And remember the show Cops?
Yeah.
I think that had a lot to do with the lyrics. So cameras turned over, caved in, cop cars, and
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So my number 13, I'm going with Dreamline, opening track on Roll the Bones. I love that song, and I thought it translated so well live. I love when they played it live. Alex took a bit more of an extended solo on there. It was always great to hear that live. A little more crunchier live too, because Roll the Bones and Show Don't Tell, I think the production lacks a bit on those albums, a bit thin. Especially Alex's guitar sound, but live, like he had a lot more bite, and I thought that track benefited from it live. So number 12, it was the return of Rush after Neil's tragedies. I'm going with One Little Victory. Again, this song could have been in my top 10, but there's just other songs that kind of I have to rate above it. But man, I remember the anticipation for this song was so high, and hearing it, man, and hearing Neil with the double bass with the opening drum track, I was like blown away. My jaw was like, yes, Rush is back, man. We thought 5 years was like, that was like an eternity, man. We never knew what was going to happen with them, but they were back and in a big way. And Alex's guitar roared and Geddy's bass roared, and it was great, man. It was a nice opening statement for the album. So, and number 11, I'm going with Distant Early Warning off of Grace Under Pressure.
Ooh.
I love Grace Under Pressure. I got into Rush probably around when Signals was brand new. So really Grace Under Pressure was kind of the new album that I got when, I was into Rush right. That was like the new one I was anticipating. So, but I put it, it's just right outside my top 10. I still love the song so much. I remember the video on MTV, as a kid and stuff. I was like, wow, it's cool, man. Like kid flying around in a rocket. You could look back on that now. It's probably cheesy, but when you're a kid, man, these things, they get ingrained in your head. And you think they're the coolest thing. So that's my 13, 12, and 11.
Yeah.
Now we're in top 10.
Top 10.
Donna?
Yep. I don't think I put Farewell to Kings anywhere, did I?
No, not
Not
yet.
yet.
because
Yeah.
that's where I wanted it. And mainly because of all the good memories I have of seeing that done live. That's another one of those songs where you're seeing people playing the guitar, you're seeing people air drumming. I mean, they're singing along. It just, for me, it just is what a Rush concert is all about.
Donna, can I ask a
There's
quick question? Can I
Yeah.
ask a quick question? When was the first time you saw Rush live, actually?
of June of 1974
So that was the first album then. Okay.
So you,
when
yes,
they were.
you saw them with
I
Rush.
saw them at the Allen Theater, and I've got the proof. I've got a picture of the marquee. A lot of people are like, no, they weren't there then. Well, yeah, they were. June of 1974, Rutsey was still with them. Neil had not joined and would not for another couple of weeks. But they did some stuff from that first album because that's all they had.
Yeah.
And it was just an incredible experience. And then I saw them again later at the Agora in December of 74, where they did some of the stuff from Fly By Night. And they also gave me a shout out very kindly, which I wasn't expecting. But yeah, I've been there pretty much since the beginning. So I got to watch as certain songs developed, as they played songs live for the first time.
That's awesome.
It was
Just had to ask.
oh, please. So that was a thing that happened in the world. So yeah, a Farewell to Kings, definitely. I'm going, if I haven't already, I'm going Show Don't Tell next.
Okay.
Just because of the fact that I just thought it was a clever song with the legal metaphors and the whole thing about how we tend to trust the wrong people and, taking it on faith and this and that. But the line about you can twist perceptions, but
Yeah.
reality won't budge.
What a line.
Yeah.
Boom. Okay. And
So relevant today. So relevant today.
as I told you, a lot of songs for me are about, can I quote them? And I often do. And that leads me to Subdivisions. And the reason it leads me, obviously, conform or be cast out, be cool or be cast out. I wonder whoever used that anywhere.
I tried to be a little clever on that one.
Somebody should use that. What do you think, Al? But the thing that really resonated with me, the suburbs have no charms to soothe the restless dreams of youth. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I can imagine what it must have been like for Neil's parents when he told them that he wanted to go off and be a musician rather than working at his father's store. And I know his parents. I knew Glenn. I know Betty. I mean, they were wonderful people, okay? But can you imagine what that must have been like? Can you imagine what it was like for Getty's mom? You're dropping out of high school to be a musician, I mean, he had to literally promise her that if he had kids, his kids would finish college, okay?
Yeah.
And they did. And they did. And they both got advanced degrees. But my point is that lyric just resonated with me, as I think it does with everyone who has ever felt like, this isn't it. I can't stay here. This is just not what I'm looking for. I've got to find it out there somewhere. And I just felt like that song said it beautifully. Have I got one more, or did I do three?
You did three.
I did three.
Right?
Go.
So you did a Farewell to Kings.
Show Don't Tell. Subdivisions.
That's where I'm looking at my notes because, like I said, I went the other way. So now
Yeah.
I'm trying to reconstruct everything. Am I doing all right?
Yeah, you do
Am I
awesome.
making even a remote amount of sense?
You're awesome. Thank you. Tim, go ahead, my friend.
So my number 10 is Force 10. I swear I didn't plan it that way. But
Yeah,
I
you did.
have
Admit it.
I have a real soft spot for Hold Your Fire because I got into Rush. This would have been the first album I bought when it was a current album. So this is when I was still completing my Rush collection, but this is the first new album that I bought, and this is the first I'd heard I'd only heard Time Stand Still and Lock and Key at this point because I'd seen the videos. But Force 10, I like the song. It's one of the more rocking songs on the album, although the album's not very rocking. I've come to appreciate it for other reasons over the years. The lyrics have never made a lot of sense to me, and as far as like knowing exactly what Neil's getting at, but I like the way Geddy sings them. It's very melodic. Yeah, I like the song. I even like the synthesized jackhammer or whatever, the beginning and end of it.
Yeah.
My number 9 is Caravan, and I don't know if I'm colored by the fact that it is the last Rush album. It will continue to be the last Rush album, but I just thought that they finished so strong.
Yeah.
With Clockwork Angels. I love the fact that they went all in with a concept album. It used to annoy me so much when I would read a 1976 concept album, 2112. It's like it's half a concept album. The rest is just 5 songs. So they went all in with it, and yet the songs, more or less, most of them anyway, stand on their own as standalone songs.
Yeah.
The song, I got the single when it came out a couple years before the album came out. I thought it was a nice heavy one. But Can't Stop Thinking Big. In a world that feels so small, I can't stop thinking big. That line, again, that late into their career, Neil's still coming up with these memorable lyrics, and memorable lyrics that you want to sing them too. You don't just want to quote them because the melody is catchy. And my number 8 is 2112. Now, I probably would have put this higher because I know how important this song and this album was to the band's career. If it had been a case of where I could have called track 1 like Overture in the Temples of Syrinx, I probably would have gone with it. But if I have to count the whole song, and it's fantastic and I love it, as an opening track, well, it's long. So that's why it's no higher, but that's why it's in the top 10, if that makes any sense.
All right. Makes a lot of sense. All right, Andy.
Yeah, so we are going into the top 10. My number 10 is going to be off of Hemisphere, Signals X1 Book 2 is what I'm going to start off with number 10. My number 9, it is going to be the leadoff track to the leadoff album, Finding My Way. I think it's a really good, straight up hard rock song. It's such a great song. I love it. I wish I could have put it higher, but I can't. And number 8, it's going to go all the way to Vapor Trails, One Little Victory. I was surprised I put this one this high, but it just felt right to have it inside the top 10. Like Al was mentioning earlier, the drumming intro to the whole song, it's kind of like it was a welcome back. Here's Neil again, and and then the rest of the band comes in. I think it's fantastic the way they do that.
Very
So
fitting.
that's my number 8.
Awesome. All right, my number 10, going to the first album, Finding My Way. It's just a great. I thought it was a great song to open up their career, man. Like it's a song about like being out on the road, man. They were road dogs already by that time. You know what I mean? Playing a lot of like, bar gigs and everything like that. So honing their craft. But by the time they released the album, I think, they were progressing at a rapid rate. I mean, those songs were probably really old to them already, by the time that debut album came out. But still an awesome, powerful. I love Alex's, the way it just fades in and Alex's riff. And I think it just, to me, that first album is Alex just, full speed ahead, man. I mean, he's just riff master. So as a guitar player myself, Alex is one of my influences. So number 9 is The Big Money. I love Power Windows. Of all the synth era albums, that's my favorite one out of the 80s, kind of the whole, starting with like kind of Grace Under Pressure, going into real synthy stuff. I love Power Windows, and I love the opening track, Big Money. When you have it on a nice stereo, it's like just boom. It just explodes out of the stereo, just boom right there, So that's my number 9. Number 8 is gonna be Bastille Day. It's kind of a little. Now we're getting into like tough area where like where am I gonna rank these songs? But I love Bastille Day again, like Tim was saying, man. What a great heavy riff. I mean, Alex just is awesome on there, and I think the live version is the superior version. It's heavier, crunchier, and I think it's just awesome. So that's my number 8. So now we're gonna go 7, 6, 5.
Okay, if I haven't already, One Little Victory. And the reason I put it up so high, this is the song I was referring to when I said before, when I first listened to it, I was kind of meh. But then Getty did a guest appearance on a wonderful Canadian TV show that I watch faithfully called Murdoch Mysteries. Okay. And if you can get Murdoch Mysteries, you should check it out. It's just a lovely little show. It's been on for quite a long time. He was on it in 2022, playing a character called Thomas Sawyer, because what else would he play?
Of course.
And in it, there's a line where he says, "Celebrate the moment." And I'm like, clever. And you can, in fact, go on any place that has GIFs or GIFs, if you prefer, and you'll see him dressed up like Thomas Sawyer from like 1905 or so, wearing those old costumes. And he's saying, "Celebrate the moment." And that made me revisit One Little Victory. And when I heard it, in my mind, I'm hearing the character, I'm hearing the show. I'm like, celebrate the moment as it turns into one more, another chance at victory, another chance to score, the measure of the moment in a difference of degree, just one little victory, a spirit breaking free. And I suddenly realized I like this song. Didn't like it as much before, but I like it now. So, and that happens a lot with Rush, doesn't it? You re-listen to stuff and you find songs you haven't thought about
Oh, froze up a
in
little bit
years.
there.
A single
There you
time
go.
we did a Rush deep dive where
Oh,
That's all right.
I haven't thought about that song in years.
Should have a little trouble with
Now,
our
look
internet.
at this. What a great next. Far
Oh, great.
Yeah, she's freezing up a little bit.
yeah.
You're freezing up a little bit there, Donna. You're going in and
I
out.
don't know why.
It seems like you freeze up and then you catch up.
Yeah.
No.
Gotta love technology. Gotta love live.
Oh, I
Yeah, it's like in and out now.
freeze periodically. Am I okay now?
Yeah, it's like you come in and then all of a sudden you can. Oh,
It's Gremlins. It's probably Gremlins. It could be space lasers.
Okay,
It
now
could
you're
be
back.
one of the
Yeah, you're
numbers.
back now. That's
now
good.
you're back. Now you're back. Okay.
Anyway, did I do Far Cry? Yes, no?
I think you were just starting to talk about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the thing with Far Cry, okay, it's a far cry from the world we thought we'd inherit. That whole disillusionment in 2007, looking at what had been happening in the world, but also the line about electrical changes are charging up the young. When I hear that, I always think of Spirit of Radio, invisible airwaves crackle. Just there's a certain synergy there. Okay, so before our audio goes bye-bye, let me say that my next one is The Big Money. And that could have been written yesterday. Big money get a heavy hand. Big money take control. Big money get a mean streak. Big money got no soul. One of the things that has always amazed me is how Rush never let money and power change who they were.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. They
They never argued over royalties, or they always said we're going to split it this way, and we'll never have to talk about it again.
That's right.
Wow.
That breaks up so many bands.
Yep.
It really does. Money.
Yeah. All right, Tim.
Just too. It picks up so much.
Yeah.
Money is the root of all evil. You
It
know,
is.
No, actually, it isn't money that's the root of all evil. The love of money is
Yeah.
the root of all evil. Because money in and of itself is neither good nor bad.
Yeah.
But if you use it as a weapon, and that's what Neil's talking about.
There you go. Great analogy of it. All right, Tim.
Timmy.
So my number 7 is Anthem. And I do see what Donna means by the lyrics. They're pretty heavy-handed, kind of preachy. And, you know, I don't think the world needs more selfishness. I think it needs less selfishness. But I think that obviously Neil's lyrics changed dramatically over the years. And
He was 21 when
yeah,
he wrote
he got,
it.
he was reading Ayn Rand, and, you know, that eventually led to 2112. But musically, I love the fact that supposedly this was the first song that the three of them jammed on when Neil joined the band. They just kind of locked into that, and I think it's heavy, it's powerful. You know, Getty's vocals were just so powerful, like cut right through the mix. And love Alex's solo in it. It's that old school, like, you know, the Gibson 335. Love that sound. It was the song to announce, you know, basically Rush Mark II to the world, the new guy, right? He was the new guy for many years. But so Anthem's my number 7. Number 6, The Spirit of Radio. I hear that on the radio now more. I never heard Rush on the radio at all when I was a kid. Like, I could count on one hand. Now they're like a staple. And this is one of the most popular songs that I hear, and I crank it up every time. I think that they pack so much into this song that you kind of forget how brilliant the lyrics are, because it goes from new wavy to heavy to the reggae section, that the lyrics kind of get lost. And just the joy of turning on the radio and hearing the right song at just the right time. Sometimes it happens. It's the best thing. Yeah, I mean, and it was a new beginning for them. They stopped doing the longer songs, and, you know, they started getting more radio airplay without compromising at all. And they talk about that, you know, glittering prizes and endless compromises. Again, talking about money. It's that they held on to their integrity as better than anyone I can think of. You know, I'm sure that they had to make sacrifices and compromises along the way, little ones, but nothing that they couldn't live with. So that's all there in those lyrics. And then my number 5 is One Little Victory. I never thought it would have been completely understandable, you know, with the tragedies that happened to Neil, if he'd have said, you know, meant what he said when he told the guys they can consider him retired, which is so sad, reading Ghost Rider. But when I heard that song, it was like hearing from an old friend you thought you'd never hear from again. And we got a whole second act of fantastic music for them that we might never have gotten. And this was the thing that started it all off. So it was such a powerful statement. Now, it took me a long time to get into the album as a whole, because, as we know, the sound was pretty brick walled and it wasn't the easiest listen. But if you could listen through that, and then when they kind of fixed it with the remix version, but if you could listen through all that, I remember having a hard time figuring out what the riff was to One Little Victory, because it was just this barrage of sound coming at you. But I've grown to really like the album, and One Little Victory was just it was a victory. It was a total victory for them to come back, and for Neil to come back as a person, and then to culminate with the Rio shows. You know, that's when they do that with the fire behind Neil, great stuff. So yeah, that's my 7, 6, and 5.
Yeah, I went to that very first show of the Vapor Trails tour
In Hartford.
Yeah, I was there, and my friends and I, we took being a New Jersey guy all my life. I live in Florida now, like over a year, but I lived in New Jersey all my life. My friends and I, we got to go to that first show. So we got in a van, we got in an SUV. Our friend's SUV was like 6 of us, and we went up there, man. And that was just so emotional, that show. It was just like, I can't believe this, you know, like I'm witnessing them back, you know, and it was just, it was just electricity in the air for like all the Rush fans there, man. It was just unbelievable. So yeah, it was awesome to go to that show, Hartford, the opening night. So, yeah, go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, and that song one little victory. They couldn't put it anywhere else on that album. It had to be the leadoff track.
Yeah, had to.
It had to be. It couldn't have been anywhere else.
Yeah.
Okay, we are at number 65. No, 765. Okay,
765. Yes.
my number 7 is going to be Distant Early Warning. Now, this is a track that kind of really stuck out to me during this week. It really cried out to me, even though I've heard it, I don't know how many times, but it had been a while since I had heard that song. So it really refreshed and it really jumped up spots for me after I heard it. My number 6 is going to be The Spirit of Radio off of Permanent Waves. That's always been one of my favorite songs. It was one of the early songs that I remember hearing Rush play. So that's always had a place in my heart. And my number 5 is going to be off of Caress of Steel, which is one of my favorite albums. I love Caress of Steel. Bastille Day. I think Bastille Day is a great song. And I really think that Caress of Steel, I know I've said this quite often. Al's probably tired of hearing me say this.
No.
But it feels like side 2, Caress of Steel, is a really good precursor to what 2112 is going to be, especially side 1. Because that's when they really started to experiment with longer songs. And they just go hand in hand with the way they started 2112. But so that's my number 5 is Bastille Day.
All right. Okay, so my number 7, A Farewell to Kings. Lyrically, that song is relevant to what's going on today as it was written in 1977, in my opinion. I think the lyrics stand up well, and I love the song. I love the way Tim described it. He starts off acoustically, and just boom, the band just explodes into the electric part. And I love Alex's solo on there. But one of my favorite Alex solos, actually. So that's my number 7. Number 6, Subdivisions. As a when Subdivisions was brand new, I discovered Rush in '83, so I was like 11 years old. So hearing Subdivisions as like a kid going into middle school and just kind of we start getting like our problems and everything like that, our kid problems or whatever. You feel alienated at times and everything. Those lyrics just spoke to me. So Subdivisions is my number 6. I love the song. I love the video. And then my number 5 is Tom Sawyer. That's my number 5. It's not. It could be higher in the mix or in the list. I love Moving Pictures. I love Tom Sawyer as a track. It's not that you got to put a great song where whether you hear it a million times or not, a great song is a great song. I think it's an awesome song, but it's not my top number 1 song. I mean, a lot of people, probably like casual Rush fans, will probably put that at like number 1. For me, it's number 5, but it's still my top 5, so it's got to be somewhere. So that's my 5. Yeah, we're going. Okay, so that's it. 7, 6, 5. So now we're gonna go 4, 3, 2. Donna.
We're not going to go 4, 3, 2, 1.
No, we're gonna save 1 for the last.
Oh, okay. Because I'm running out of voice.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, okay. So listen, we'll do it your way. We can go.
No, it's not about that. It's about the fact that we're already like, I could talk about these things indefinitely.
Yeah. Let's do it, man.
I just have a finite amount of voice. So I hope that won't be a problem.
Let's go all 4 then. All 4 is
Okay.
fine.
Is that okay with everyone?
That's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Distant Early Warning. Okay. Largely, well, with all of the dangers in the world today, with all of the troubles, with I can see the tip of the iceberg, and I worry about you.
Uh-oh. Here we go.
Uh-oh.
Seriously. That's another one of these that could have been written.
Donna, you're going in and out again. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going in and out again, Donna. Okay, not. It's like the same thing as before, so you got to give it a little time. All right, you're back. You're back.
Okay, I wonder if it's the string. Wonder, the mice are running the treadmill.
you're back.
and,
You're back. You're back.
Yeah.
Good now.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Tom Sawyer, because of the line, his mind is not for rent to any god or government. Not an anti-religion song. It's a song about making choices, about thinking for yourself, about not renting out your mind to your favorite politician or your favorite clergy person or even your favorite rock star. Neil never wanted to be on a pedestal. He never did. Okay. Number two, totally for the experience, finding my way.
Yeah.
Okay. To this day, when I hear those opening chords, it gives me the chills
Yeah, I bet.
because I remember where I was when I heard that song. Okay. And as soon as we started playing Working Man, everybody wanted to know what else are we going to play from the album. And the next song we played was Finding My Way. People loved it. And when I heard them do it live, it was just, it just takes me back to this day. Okay. And finally, gotta be Spirit of Radio. Begin the day with a friendly voice. A song about what has happened to the music industry. People ask me all the time, could you discover Rush today? I could not. There was a time when radio ruled, when we had independence and freedom,
Yeah.
when we could play the great songs, when no one told us what to play. I mean, yeah, sure, there were rules, there were considerations,
Right.
but we could take a chance on a new band. Today, there's so many fewer stations, so many fewer places that'll give new music a chance. It breaks my heart.
Yeah.
And I will always remember when radio ruled, when that friendly voice began our day,
Mhm.
and when a music director from Dorchester, Massachusetts, who moved to Cleveland, giving up tenure in the Boston public schools where I could never have been fired. But teaching wasn't where my heart was, radio was. And I gave up everything sight unseen and moved to Cleveland and discovered a rock band. And everything changed. Everything changed. And when I think of Spirit of Radio, brings it all back to me.
Bravo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
I remember being a kid.
That's
That was
awesome.
the first thing that I would do the radio was my gateway to everything.
Yeah.
And I loved it. It was my best friend.
Yeah.
I loved radio.
Yeah.
And now it's just a wasteland.
Yeah.
And back then, in the mid 80s, when I was 10, 11, and 12, you best believe that was my best friend.
Yeah.
Was that radio station.
Absolutely. Tim.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So my number 4 is the same as Donna's, Distant Early Warning. This is I agree with what Al said. I didn't grow up with MTV. I grew up with Much Music, and Much Music supported Rush as well as they supported tons of Canadian artists. But Distant Early Warning is by far the video that got the most play. That had to be their most popular video because that got a lot of play. Very much, very cinematic, directed by, I want to say, David Mallet, I think. Yeah. The imagery, the guys playing on that stage that's, like the United Nations or whatever.
Almost like the Pentagon or something like
exactly. And it's it's very Cold War. There were a lot of, Grace Under Pressure is practically the Cold War album, right?
That's definitely a Cold War soundtrack album, yeah.
But have we come that far? No, we haven't really. It's a great song too. It's got an unusual, not just an unusual time signature, but it's got an unusual feel, like where the beat falls. But as always, they make it work. I like what Terry Brown once said about them. They seem to be able to manipulate time at will, which, time is time. You can't mess with it. But if you can make a song that's very complicated and have still people bob their head to it, you're really onto something. And it's a compelling song. Grace Under Pressure is also the first Rush album that I heard in its entirety. So I've got a soft spot for it there. My number 3 is actually Tom Sawyer. I mean, it's the quintessential Rush song because it's not like you've got a band that has this long career, but they've got this one song that if people know one song by them, it's this particular song. But sometimes that happens to bands. People will know one song and it's not representative of the band sound. Tom Sawyer is absolutely representative of Rush.
Yeah.
So, it's not like you're going to, well, do their other songs sound like this? Yes. I'm jealous you get to hear it for the first time if you're interested in digging in.
Yeah.
And also, just to get back to the Murdoch Mysteries thing, like Donna was talking about, I think Geddy should do more acting. I think he's good at it. I even liked it. Did you guys ever see when he did the PSA for tobogganing?
Yes.
The winter safety one. I think that one is
That was
hilarious.
His tongue gets stuck on the end.
Yeah, young children or people who are worried about their brains should always wear a helmet. Yeah. So, but I mean, Tom Sawyer, it's goes without saying, it's got to be up on everybody's list, but it doesn't necessarily have to be number 1, even though Moving Pictures is probably ultimately my favorite. But number two is actually my favorite Rush song, and that is Subdivisions. It's my all-time favorite Rush song. I think this is the ultimate example of where the music is as compelling as the lyrics, because I was not a cool kid. I was the kid in the video to that song, walking down the school hallway, trying not to get beat up by the tougher kids with the AC/DC jackets on and the long hair. I was just trying to get through my day without any trouble. I so related to that song. I related to the video, but I related to the song too, because it's so beautifully melodic. As soon as that synth line comes on, I'm in. I'm in for the 5 minutes and 4 seconds or however long it is. I just think it's an amazing, amazing song. That it is a popular song. They've always done it live, but I still think it's even better than people think it is. There's just something about that song.
Right.
The fade, the end. Neil's hitting the ride cymbal, and it's just amazing. Love it so much. But that's not my favorite opening song. I have to be sentimental, and if people have done the math, they know what it is. I have to go back to the first song I ever heard by this band. And believe it or not, I heard it on the radio. And it was a station that was a top 40 station that I listened to all the time. They did not play Rush. I knew there was a band called Rush at this time. I was 11. That's all I knew. But there was a top 5 request countdown. I've told this story many times. And I was on my Christmas vacation. So it was December 1985 going into 86. And all week, because I got to stay up a little bit longer, they had this top 5 requested songs every night at 11 o'clock. And this one, and the other songs I'd already heard, because they were songs that this station played all the time in regular rotation. Don't ask me what they were. The one that sticks out, The Big Money. It's the first song I ever heard by Rush. And was I hooked right away? I don't know if I'd tell you that, but I liked the song. It wasn't very long after that Much Music came to our small town. And the first video that I saw when I realized that we had 24 hours of video was Mystic Rhythms. So Power Windows era was vital to me in getting into this band. If it wasn't for Much Music, I probably wouldn't have gotten into them. But this is the song that started them all. The only thing that I will say is that before I started really listening, I used to think that the lyrics went a singer and a story instead of a Cinderella story. But I still think it's an awesome song. I love the ride out at the end where Neil's fills are slightly different every time, and it's just a fantastic song. That had to be my favorite of all their opening tracks.
Awesome. Andy, let's go,
Right.
brother.
Yeah, we're
4, 3, 2, 1, baby.
1. My number 4 is going to be off of Signals. It's going to be Subdivisions.
Yes.
And y'all have all talked about it. But then remember being in elementary, you got all of your friends and everything is great. And then y'all move to junior high or middle school and everybody starts to break apart. Everybody starts going to different places. So that's what this song reminds me of, are that when we're growing up, we start to find our little niche and our little groups of people. We're not being forced inside of a classroom now. We're going to different classrooms. We're walking throughout the school. We're meeting different people, and you start to become little subdivisions of people. So I've always liked that song. Number 3, Tom Sawyer, off of Moving Pictures. I mean, we all know about that song. I can never get tired of that song. I think it's great. You always hear something new every time you hear that song. It's amazing. Number 2, Anthem, off of Fly By Night. I think it's a really good rocker. It's a really good song. I know that it's early on, and y'all talked about the writing, but the spirit of it all, the feel, the excitement of that song. That's why I have it at number 2. And number 1, I'm pretty sure y'all can figure it out because I haven't talked about it. The first time that I ever saw Rush live was I live over here in Texas. So at the time I was living in Corpus Christi, and we were this guy said he had an extra ticket to go see Rush, but it was in San Antonio, which was about a 2.5 hour drive. And he said, I need a ride. I go, I'll go with you. So we went. We were a little late, but when we walked into the Alamo, we were about 30 minutes late, and 2112 was just starting. As soon as we walked in there, and it just blew our minds. We were just we weren't even at our seats yet. We were just jumping up and down, playing air guitar, whatever, just there in the middle of wherever it was. You know, like when you're walking to go get your seat, or the aisle, or wherever we were. You know, we were just having a good time. And then after the show, you know, we went back home, you know, another 2.5 hour drive. Fun fact, that was the first time I ever saw that guy, the last time I ever saw that guy.
But hey, man.
Strangers.
Yeah.
He like showed up at my friend's house. He was friends with other people. But then when he said he needed a ride, I said, I'll give you one. And then we came back and never saw him again.
Yeah.
But 2112, favorite song.
All right, man.
Favorite opener.
Awesome. All right, so my number 4, Anthem. It's Neil's arrival, his declaration, his first time you ever heard Neil with the band. I thought it was one of the most powerful songs. As a guitar player, I love Alex on that song. That's just like such a powerful like guitar song, man. So number 3, I'm going with Hemispheres. Being a prog guy, and I love progressive rock. That was Rush at their most progressive peak, man. I mean, they took it to where they overreached, but they were still able to deliver, and they took that style of music to as far as they could go. And what a song, man! What an album side. So Hemisphere is my number 3. Number 2, the first time I ever heard Rush, it was a station in New York. Being a New Jersey guy, WPLJ 95.5 was a rock station back in the day. They used to play album sides, and as a kid that I couldn't afford albums too much, I used to tape album sides. So they played side 1 of Permanent Waves. That's the first time I ever heard like anything by Rush. Really, I think I heard Tom Sawyer before that. This was like in '83. So, but they played side 1. I taped it and I played it over and over again. I'm like, oh man, I gotta like delve more into this band. So my first album ended up being Exit Stage Left, because it was a live album, had a little bit of everything on it, and then I went from there, man. But Spirit of Radio, I never get sick of that song. It's one of the greatest songs that they ever wrote, in my opinion. Lyrically, musically, it's just the kitchen sink is just kind of thrown into that song. So, and my number 1, as an 11-year, as a kid going in, as becoming a teenager, 11, 12-year-old kid, hearing 2112 for the first time just blew my head apart, man. Being like into sci-fi movies and all this stuff, and he opening up the album and reading the lyrics along to the whole album side, and just being intrigued by this whole like dystopian, world that, it just seems so futuristic. And they wrote it in 1976, and it just, I couldn't wrap my head around it, but I knew I loved it. So 2112 is my number 1 too. I agree with my buddy Andy there. So that's my number 1. And that's it, man. That's our top opening songs. Donna, thank you so much for sticking it out with us. No pun intended.
Just glad I had some voice.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. I thank you
Well,
so
thank
much.
you for having me. I hope I wasn't boring.
No, you're not.
Never.
Not at all.
Never.
I can
Not
hear
possible.
I could hear your stories forever, but
Yeah.
hopefully we can have you back on one day again and we can do another cool little exercise or something. So,
Yeah.
but thank you so much, Donna. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I'm sure I speak for Andy and Tim
yeah.
as well.
Yes, Miss Donna. It was very nice to meet you, and I wanted to hear more stories. So hopefully we will have you on again. It was a wonderful time meeting you. It really is.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And with that, Be Cool, Be Podcast out. Hit the subscribe, like it, do all that stuff, and everybody have a great night. Cheers.
Bye, guys.
Rush on.